What's up, everybody? We're here at Tell the Truth Podcast, here with DG, CJ, and myself, DMac. Uh, Back at it again for another week, dog. We
Yes,
got
sir.
a great game, interesting game, a little bit of an up and down game to recap here. The week four win in New Jersey, MetLife Stadium with Taylor Swift in attendance, because we got to mention that within the first 30 seconds, or somebody at the NFL is going to come
Shout
shut.
out to the Swifties.
Shout out to the Swifties.
They're not gonna listen if we don't say her name. So
Yes, let's get it mentioned off the top, man. Get it done. But as the Chiefs had to pull it out, certainly a fast start here for the Chiefs, up 17-0 to begin the game. As the game went on, they kind of took their foot off the gas pedal. Some penalties, some drops, things started to snowball. Jets able to get back in the game, ultimately tie it up at 20-20, and eventually Chiefs put together two long drives, one to go up 23-20, and then another one subsequently to ice the game with about 7 minutes left. So yeah, we'll go into it. We'll talk about it in totality. But both of you guys, how you guys doing today? And you guys can start off with your overall thoughts on the game. Any big takeaways you want to start off with? DG, go ahead, man.
Oh yeah, I'm good. Doing, living, surviving. But nah, man, that game on Sunday was, man. I really like quote it as a street fight. Like they pretty much went to New Jersey and got into a street fight. Early on, you get up 17-0, and I'm sitting there thinking, all right, this might turn into another, blowout or whatever. And then once that safety happened, I was like, yeah, it's gonna be one of them nights. Like,
here we go.
yeah, here we go. So to me, the Chiefs of the past, like I feel like used to lose games like that. Now that they're more equipped now to go up and win some games like that. The Jets obviously had a mentality to really make that game physical. Try to beat us up a little bit. It felt like an alley fight. But I think the Chiefs are now at the point in that stage of their careers around where they're more equipped to win games like that. So proud of what they was able to do, even though it was sloppy. But got the dub. A dub is a dub. So.
Thanks. I mean, DG pretty much said it. Those are the games in the back of the day we usually lose. So it's kind of frustrating, like Kendall said, like to start off. It's basically like a carbon copy of that Broncos game last year in Denver. We start off, get a lead, get turnovers, get stops, and we score fast, get a 2-3 possession lead, and then all of a sudden one turnover turns into two turnover turns into a score for the other team, and then it's like a snowball effect. So, but like to DG's point, and I know Pat kind of said it in his presser, it's better to win ugly than to lose pretty. So it's like nobody likes letting teams in ball games they shouldn't be in, like DG said, but winning games is going to help you in the long run, regardless if you're not playing well, because there's going to be a good team that we go against with a better quarterback, and they're going to be having a back and a forth. And being in these battles now is going to help us in the long term, especially for the young guys. Now, for the veterans who've been here, they know how we do. We're like the comeback kids for a reason. So being down 7-10 points means nothing to us, but you don't want to make it a habit ever. But we know Pat said it in the offseason, we're good for a rating. So everyone got their – I think they put the tweet in the chat earlier. The top three most games watched in the NFL, or 3 out of the top 5, we're all in 3 of them. So our Lions game, the game on Sunday versus the Jets, and then obviously our previous game on another prime time. So anytime we're on TV, we know people love to watch us. So we are the quote-unquote America's team. Can we say that now? I don't know if that's trademark. So
No, we're the star of the show.
According to Mark, we are.
Yeah,
3 out of the top 5 games, the most watched is us. So
you gotta look at what the numbers say and just follow them.
we ain't lying.
The numbers don't lie. I will say this: DG put it well. It was an alley fight, and I think it's indicative of how well that this team has evolved, really, because this team had to rush for, I think it was its most yardage on the ground since the Buffalo game in 2020, if you believe that. So a long time. This team had to play very good defense, even with a quarterback that was elevating beyond what he had been playing at. This team was able to get those stops in which they needed to. So sometimes you got to win ugly, and that's exactly what ended up happening. Uh, we'll certainly be getting to this offense here as it goes by as well. So we'll talk about it a little bit later on. We do want to start here with the defense, though. We have a few points to get to because, look, this defense overall played an okay game. I would say even probably a good game ultimately. because the issues that Zach Wilson decided to give them during the second and third quarters were more so just Zach Wilson making some really great, throws, and you got to give him credit for that. Ultimately, they were able to get stops in which the offense was not doing a good job of sustaining drives. They kind of saved them a little bit there in the second half, and that's all you can ask from a defense to be able to get the job done. So our first point kind of is another week, no Nick Bolton in the middle. I think that the team fairly equipped itself well. I think that you saw Drew Tranquil maybe be a little bit light in some aspects. How did you guys feel about the defense overall without another week of Nick Bolton?
Go ahead, DJ.
I mean, for me, I think Tranquil is still doing a nice job of stepping in and being able to call the plays and get guys in the right spots. But you can kind of tell they miss a little bit of Nick's physicality and what he brings. There's some plays that, in my opinion, there's some plays that only Nick Bolton can make. And he's starting to really become that type of player. So I think it's really important for them to try to get him back on the field as quick as they can. I do believe that they were able to manage very well though without him, but you can clearly tell there's a certain deficiency there that Nick Bolton definitely feels. So I think they got to get him back on the field as soon as possible.
Yep.
I think guys are kind of in that low management mode right now. Like DMac said, like we've kind of been. You can tell like some of the first couple of series, Chris Jones wasn't on the field for a lot of the snaps, which was kind of, and just like the end of the Chicago Bears game, they're kind of managing him because these are kind of like those reps. Like to DG's point, you don't want to have to use your stars every play to win games. Like this is that time when you can get guys rest because it's a long season, it's 17 games. So if you can get a 2-week break for Nick Bolton, that's huge. We never would have been able to do that 2-3 years ago. So the fact that we are blessed in this position now to where guys are able to get rest, heal up, clean up all the nicks and bruises so they can get ready for this long season and on the road of trying to go back to back. You need these kind of situations and the depth that we have. And I've done a great job of trying to like dig through the tape, and I posted a couple clips today, and I'll send them to DMac later so we can post them. But Spags does a great job of disguising coverages, even without Nick Bolton being on the field, having like 2-down looks, 3-down looks, and having multiple guys on the line of scrimmage, and then dropping out of it or having guys blitz and kind of mixing it up. And I think when you have different personalities, different personnel groupings on this defense, it allows you to do things when you don't have your star linebacker, when you don't have your second best pass rusher, and Charles Omenihu on the roster right now. So there's a lot of things this defense is able to do, even without your second best and third best players being out there. And I think that's a credit to Spags and his team and what they've done during training camp in the last 2 years in the draft. And I got to give a credit to Veach. This defense hasn't played up to the par the past couple of years, but this year we had a lot of high expectations being that top 10, top 5 defense. And I think 4 weeks in, we've only given up 14.7 points per game. We've averaged 1 or more turnovers every game. So coming into the season, if you guys would have told me that, I would have been ecstatic. So I'm super proud of what the defense has done so far.
Yeah, look, and 14.7 points per game is what you want. Like you can't ask for a better defense than what you've kind of invested into this point, and that's without, like you said, their second best pass rusher with Nick Bolton missing some games. And look, it sounds like it's been an ankle issue for Nick Bolton. Hopefully, 2 weeks off will give him enough time to be back here in Minnesota. We'll certainly monitor as far as practice is concerned. But look, as far as not having Nick Bolton out there are ways in which Drew Tranquil is a little bit different from him. And you see this in a dime snap here where they're just going to run a simple inside zone. And there's a little bit of a lack of instincts from Drew Tranquil here as the hole opens up clearly in that A gap, and Drew Tranquil just is kind of just sliding. And there's an alleyway for I believe that's Michael Carter to kind of run through. And, that's where the instincts of Nick Bolton, a guy that may not test as amazingly as other linebackers you may see, really show up, because that's a run fit that I'm sure that he recognizes and shoots that gap and closes that down a little bit, makes that a much more difficult process for Michael Carter. And we saw it a little bit on the toss play as well, in which Nick Bolton, or I should say Drew Tranquil, kind of got caught as a guy was climbing to the second level. And again, these things happen. Drew Tranquil just doesn't, have that type of instincts as far as Nick Bolton is concerned. But it also has to be said, as far as the flip side is concerned, I think we've seen a little bit better physicality from Drew Tranquil this year, and this is an evidence of it, being able to slip that climbing to the second level blocker, get underneath him, and still be able to grab that the running back there trying to get through the hole. So it's a duality to it. I think that he's been fine, certainly in his play, and he's especially been very good in coverage, and that's essentially why he was brought in. When you have Nick Bolton back, you will have that regular rotation. I think you saw maybe a little bit tired legs in the second half from some of these guys. Once that rotation is put back into place, then you'll see that continue to pick up as well as we get through it. Specifically, as we saw after the first quarter fast start, Zach Wilson, and from my perspective, this was about 35% of the Chiefs having some vanilla calls and a little bit of the pass rush kind of taking a little bit of a downturn. They didn't necessarily get after him as much as I would have liked there after the first quarter. But also, you got to just give credit to Zach Wilson, who was putting some absolute great throws out there. From you guys' perspective, what do you think really helped or sparked, or was it all on Zach Wilson as far as that hot streak that he got on to put those points on the board versus the Chiefs defense? Go ahead, CJ.
I think it's more so like probably a little bit of both. I'll say like 50-50. We definitely put it easier in their lap. Like we didn't have to obviously, give them 2 short fields with the turnovers, and obviously the safety kind of helped them out as well and giving them confidence, because if that safety doesn't happen and we happen to go down the field and score or get a field goal, it's 20-0, 24-0 is a lot different than 17. So I think us turning the ball over, giving them short fields, giving them confidence. But to DMac's point, Zach just made some good throws. You got to give him credit where credit is due. I would have liked for us to blitz more, probably get home a little bit more. I thought we would have done that more so early. But I think, like we all know, we kind of took our foot off the gas. Like, all right, we're up 17-0. Definitely move the ball. Maybe we don't have to use exotic blitz coverages or packages. We could just go out there with vanilla coverages and just see if he forced him to make some big boy throws. And he did it last night. And it's kind of ironic because we always say teams are like the get-right game for the Chiefs. It's like they struggle all year, but then when they play us, all of a sudden they magically do things they haven't done all year, which is always funny, a funny joke that we always tell between the kingdoms. So overall, I think the defense definitely kind of took their foot off the gas, but I'm definitely going to give Zach Wilson his credit for making some big boy throws. Garrett Wilson's an amazing receiver. Alan Lazard is a solid number 2. Guys made some good catches and some good decisions. And I think kind of like so far during the season, I know Zach Wilson's getting a lot of hurt and a lot of like knock on his name because he hasn't played well. So get like obviously credit to what he's done and hasn't done. But I think him and Nathaniel Hackett finally slowed down and decided to just get the quick game more involved. Get the ball out of his hands, 1-2 reads. You don't have to think about anything. And I think he took advantage of that. And you mix that with our basic coverages. It made him, I'm not trying to disrespect him, guys, but it made him look better than I think what he really is. So he executed the offense, what they wanted to do, simplifize things for them. And I think they did that very well. And we didn't make it easier on ourselves by turning the ball over twice in the same quarter and obviously giving them 2 short fields and all the penalties back to back. So we definitely made it easier on them than it needed to be, but they definitely played well when they had to.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on DG as far as Zach Wilson's performance there?
I think for basically to CJ's point, like we went very vanilla. We got basic. I think Spags kind of took us a little bit of the heat off, and we got up early, and he just kind of thought like, hey, maybe we can sit back and play some of these basic coverages, and maybe he'll have some trouble with that. But I think in a sense, like Zach Wilson's eyes lit up once he seen some of those basic coverages. It was like, all right, let's get into a rhythm. Let's get the ball into our best player's hand, which is Garrett Wilson. And that just kind of got them going. And then there was that one drive where I think he had like 3 different back shoulder throws that were just like on the money. And he was like, where's this Zach Wilson been? So like that, especially that pass to I think to Conklin for the touchdown. Brian Cook was literally there. And that's one of those plays like I sat back and I was like, there's just nothing you can do about that. Like, it's just a great throw. Like, great throw. Great defense, but at the same time, a better throw. So I think just us getting a little bit vanilla, a little too basic, and we went away from disguising and not, trying to mess with his mind. So it just, to me, that's ultimately what happened and got him in the rhythm. But shout out to him for being able to go out there and instill some confidence and get his game back. So
yeah, absolutely. And look, you got to give credit again to Garrett Wilson, who was trying his darndest the entire night. Like I thought that Snead and McDuffie, as far as their play, was top notch. Still, they gave McDuffie had the one bad route where Lazard got him with the out and up, and then Lazard was able to make the catch down the field. And Snead got for maybe 1 or 2 Garrett Wilson catches. But outside of that, they both played very well, and Garrett Wilson made some still spectacular catches. But certainly as it pertains to that drive, I mean, you talk about there was the back shoulder that was on Drew Tranquil's like ear hole. He threw another one over Leo Chanel outside of the numbers that was perfect. And then the touchdown specifically was to Lazard. Cook got his hand on it. I watched it to make sure he did tip the pass, and Lazard was still able to get it. And that's just how close the margin ultimately was, because Zach Wilson was just on throughout that drive. But I did say, I tweeted this out, this was his most impressive throw to me, because it was something that I was asking for the entirety of while he was hot during this drive. Just trap him, because like you said, they got with him in the game plan. They wanted him to hit that back foot and let go of the ball. This was an out route they were continuing to run to Garrett Wilson. And on this play, he hits his back foot, gets rid of the ball. They try to trap him with Snead on the outside. He throws the ball inside to make sure that Wilson is protected and the ball can't get picked off. And when a quarterback is operating like that, you just got to tip your cap and say, hey, you're hot for this drive. Got to give him credit for that. And it ultimately, responded for them having those points on the board. But the defense was able to collect itself and get the job done and get the stops when they needed to. Yes, Kendall, that is also very true. That was the Mike Edwards almost had the interception on this play. Garrett Wilson did not get past the line of scrimmage because Snead had him locked up so badly.
Oh, that Jack boy.
That was impressive. Also, what's up, Mike?
Physicality, man. That physicality,
man.
Yeah, look, I think that for a long time we've there was an edge that was missing from this defense, but just in general, just having corners that have the ability to play physical press man coverage and actually be successful at it, where it's not where you're playing this and then you're hoping the pass rush gets home, because if not, somebody's going to be open. You're legitimately playing this because these guys can cover them at a press man. And that's just everything opens up for your defense when you can do those things, because then Spaz can be creative with his fronts. Your defensive line has a little bit of pressure taken off. It's really a great thing to see as far as what Snead and McDuffie allow this team to get to. And obviously that's without Watson having played or Williams having to play a heavy amount of those snaps. But we do have to shout out the guy that essentially made the play of the game, and I think everybody's personal opinion, probably the play that everybody's going to kind of look back on and be like, yeah, I mean, that was the play of the game here. Brian Cook, again, I'm always going to say, HU guy that transferred over to Cincinnati on this Breece Hall toss play that we kind of referenced earlier as far as Drew Tranquil getting caught inside there. But this open field tackle is spectacular. I think we all can agree with that. Just an incredibly difficult guy. Hall obviously coming back from the injury, but still an athletic player, and just completely in open space with a blocker to help out. And, Cook gets turned around, is in the blind spot, and still able to bring him down ultimately. This drive ends with no points for the Jets, and that means the world for everything that we were able to do for the rest of the game. So Brian Cook there with the game-saving play. Anything you guys want to say on Cook and just that play in general?
You get turned around 3 times in the open field. You ask any DB, that's usually a house call. So, and for a guy like Breece Hall, we all saw the play week 1 versus the Bills. I thought he was going to crib that one as well. So he's usually a guy when you get an open, he's a dog. So to get turned around 3 times and the DMac said you got a lineman and receivers running downfield, he easily could have slipped, whiffed, whatever. But find a way to get 2 hands on him and get him on the ground. That basically was arguably the play of the game for sure.
Yeah, I think that's one of those plays that, like in team meetings, Andy probably starts off the team meeting with that play. Like that this play in reality defines effort. Like the effort to just go out there and try to make a play and do whatever you can to win a game. And it shows a lot of selflessness in Brian Cook. And that's why I was like, I think right now that's probably the most important play of the season so far.
That's a gold star helmet type of play.
Yeah, man. You just that's one of them plays in especially in team meetings that you're circling and saying, look at this, guys. Like, this is effort. This is why we win championships. This is why we win titles. Because guys like this are willing to put their bodies on the line to do whatever they can to get this guy down and make sure he doesn't score. But it's also a play that goes unseen because a lot of people don't remember that because it's not a touchdown. It's not a field goal or interception or something like that. So, shout out to Brian Cook, man. That play was incredible.
Shout out B. Cook, man.
Absolutely. Shout out Brian Cook for that. And you look, it also does bear mentioning here. Even though the defense line, I don't think had a great day, we still saw a few impressive things throughout as far as I was going through clips earlier. George Kalafdis had this nice little rush here. I mean, because of how well Zach Wilson is getting the ball out. Like, if this was Zach Wilson from 2 weeks ago, Zach Wilson would have got sacked a lot more than just one time. But George Kalafdis got some really good pressure here, and obviously, I think he's still top 5 as far as pressures charged to this point. But normally, Zach Wilson's holding the ball, and that ends up being a sack because George Kalafdis is pushing him back into his hip pocket. And look, and sometimes it's just how it goes. The quarterback gets the ball out, it ends up not working out in your favor as well. FAU had a nice little loop stunt as well. We'll get a little bit into what the matchup with the Minnesota Vikings looks like later on as well. But it is time to flip on over to the offensive side of the ball. Just in general for you guys, big level takeaways, because obviously we saw them get out to that 17-point lead, run the ball effectively, really have their way with the Jets defense to start out, and then things started to stall. What were your thoughts specifically as you were going through that lean time as far as this offense was concerned? And what were your thoughts as we went through that time specifically? Go ahead, CJ.
I would probably say we got a little kind of similar to the defense. We got lazy because there were a lot of times in the offense where we were running the ball efficiently. That's definitely our best running game of the year. So it's definitely a checkbox. We've been wanting to run the ball at a high clip. And they actually ran the ball like we've been clamoring for them to do, running power, running gap schemes instead of being so addicted to the zone running scheme. So actually getting back to the run game definitely calmed them down in the second half, and it helped us kind of ease the game and kind of slow the bleeding down a little bit. But from a passing game standpoint, I think we got lazy. We made a lot of bad decisions. I think Pat will be the first one to tell you that. There were a lot of times when receivers weren't sitting in zones, and a lot of issues we've still been complaining about for the last 3 weeks that we still need to get cleaned up. A lot of opportunities where guys could have, missed throws, miscommunications. You could have sat in the zone. Maybe the ball could have came out quicker, things of that sort. So there's a lot of things we've been saying since week 1, since training camp, that we want to see get cleaned up. And I think it's just honestly, like, I know the 4-week mark is kind of like an extended preseason per se for a lot of teams, and they say those things. And I think maybe week 5, this time last year, we were coming off, I believe it was the Bucks game, when we started our offense, started to roll around, and we started getting in tune. So this is kind of like that mark where I think we'll finally hit our stride. And then thankfully, we have a good matchup this week, like DMac said, to this point, against the Vikings defense. So I think we'll eventually see our offense get back to being ourselves. But I definitely want to clean up a lot of those mistakes, like the drops. That has to stop. And I'm sure Rasheed, nobody's harder on himself than him. But a lot of little things that's probably like the most disappointing. But overall, the concepts I think we're running, guys, I watched the All-22 today. I think the concepts we're running are very good. I think guys know how to get open. They know where to go. I just think it's just the execution of knowing when to sit. And honestly, like DMac, you have to give it credit. And DG said it in his tweet earlier. The Jets have a good defense. Like they called some good plays. They're pros over there for a reason. I think it's the top 3 defense in the league, in my opinion. I know they probably haven't played up to the standard because their offense isn't that good. But I think that's a very talented defense. Like I said, it's probably going to be maybe the best unit we see this year. So overall, they made some good calls. They made some good plays. We're running man beaters. They run zone. So. And it's always a game, a chess match between your offense and their defense and vice versa. So it was a little frustrating at times, but overall, I think Andy knows. I think we're starting to figure out now what works and what doesn't work. And I think I expect our offense to get rolling in the next couple of weeks for sure.
What about you, DG? What are your thoughts about the offense struggles?
2 things. Pat must keep a bottle of Patron on the sidelines or something because, like, he'll get into these games where
he's taking literal shots and then like bad shots.
And me and CJ gonna text each other like, "All right, bro, he drunk. Like,
he's drunk, bro.
Gotta be drunk." Because some of the decision making he has sometimes, you just like, "What are you doing? What are you thinking?"
It's like the Broncos game last year. I don't know why.
Yeah, bro. Like, you're the best player on the planet. Like, come on, man. This is not you right now. And I think he just tries to get, like he said in his presser, like he gets to that point where he tries to force things. And I think it was a point you said on a podcast earlier today, CJ, where he gets bored, and he's just like, I'm bored. Let me just try something, But no, I think overall he's just got to get that out of his mind and get back to being who he actually really is. The other thing I was gonna say is that I think Isaiah, they got to get him more involved somehow, some way. Like I hate seeing how they give him the ball like 2-3 times, and then, you get a 8-yard gain here, a 6-yard gain here, and then a first down here, he pops a big play, and then they put Clyde in. And I just feel like it takes away from his rhythm. So for me, I think that kind of leads into my next point is there needs to be some establishment of roles in this offense. And I just don't think that they've kind of figured that out. And maybe they've been taking these first 4 games to kind of figure those things out or whatever. I think that's kind of what's happening in the receiver room as well. It's just the roles aren't really established. Nobody kind of knows, what we're actually doing, and it just feels like it's too many mouths to try to feed at one time. Instead of just, hey, this guy is hot, let's go to him. And I think they kind of found that in the second half when they went to that quick passing game and they started getting the ball to Rasheed and and guys like that, like having them sit down in those zones and stuff. So I just feel like they got to establish the roles better in this offense. Hopefully, we see that in this Vikings game. That's what I'm kind of leaning towards seeing or whatever. So hopefully, that's the case.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I completely get your point there about establishing Pacheco early on. And I think that was a very key thing I wanted to see, because this is a defense that was going to come out and immediately challenge you to move the ball methodically down the field, like we talked about, because of the ways in which they play zone, and they have their defense be aggressive and trying to shoot gaps. You have the ability, if you run power, if you run some, a little bit of split zone here, get those tight ends on the move, and you're able to have a chance. And really, the experimentation aspect of this, and I tweeted it out, the fact that they get really creative as far as the jet motions and the things of that nature that they use as far as the run game is concerned, and they don't necessarily use it in the pass game, is the kind of thing that annoys me at times. But overall, what CJ is talking about here, this is the experimental aspect of the early season of the Chiefs. You know that they're going to try different things. They're going to rotate guys in. They're going to use guys at different aspects. And then eventually, as they get through the season, specifically after the bye, they're going to distill it down into, okay, we know we're using these guys for this many snaps in these situations, and this is the rotation. It's set, and we have our scheme down. We know exactly where we're coming out and how we're patterning plays, what we're going to put on tape, and then what we're going to adjust off of it consistently. And that's ultimately what we just have to get to. And unfortunately, we're going to have some struggles as we go through it, to say the least. And as DG said, eventually these things need to get pared down, because too many guys, too many mouths to feed as of right now is concerned. So I did end up charting like the entirety of the failed pass attempts, including the interceptions from last week. And I came away with just a general feeling of, I literally charted, but like, a lot of this was some concept issues, in my personal opinion. A misuse of wide receivers occasionally, and this is something that I'll get into in my stay scheming episode that I'll have coming out later on in the week. It was, I'm not entirely sure if they know what they have and if they're using them correctly, but I also do kind of know that they do know this. They just are still trying to figure out how exactly to get it best. Like, they used Sky Moore to out and up against Sauce Gardner one-on-one and man coverage. Like, no, just run a slant with him and it'll be fine, and that'll get you the first down. It is what it is, and these are the things that they're going to continue to work towards, and it's a little bit annoying, to say the least, to start out. But yeah, I mean, look, again, more Pacheco when they're able to do that, and don't run CH on outside zone. Don't do that, because that's not productive. It's not going to work.
Oh my God, bro!
Clyde, my dog, he looks like he's stuck in dirt, bro.
Dog, I screamed at the TV when they did that. I'm like, what are you doing?
I love Clyde.
He runs his cement.
Clyde has a very narrow aspect in which he can be productive right now. It is straight ahead gap and power runs, and then the occasional where you leak him out and get a rub route and you can go in the red zone. That is legitimately it. If you're not using them on both of those things and it's not pass pro, don't put them out there, because otherwise it'll be a waste of the possession that you're going to use.
My question, okay.
Go ahead.
Run that play. Jerry McKinnon is your receiving back. Yeah. Why is he not in the game on that play? If you're going to run that play, that's what I mean. Like, establishing roles. Like, I get like maybe trying to save McKinnon, for later on in the year and things of that nature, but like, you can't afford to sometimes drop any of these games. Like, if you drop some of these games,
stuff is annoying, right, especially in the running back room.
Right.
So annoying.
I don't get it, man. But hey, Andy's got his ways. So
I mean, last year Clyde got hurt, unfortunately for him, and that kind of made them crunch it down to two guys, and then Jet and Pop kind of made that two-man rotation. But I think now it's like, well, they know Clyde's in the game. Jet's like, 32, 33 now. So they're like, hey, we got to save this guy as much as we can. So I think once, like DMac said, once we get to that bye around week 7, when the Chargers week come in town, I think we'll eventually cut the snaps down from like I don't know the exact snap share, but I'm pretty sure Clyde's like probably like, what around like in the high teens, maybe like high 20s for like snap share. So I would like to get that number back down and get out to have Pop and Jets is around like 50 and 40. That's what I would like it to be. But until we get to that point where it's like cold football, like around November, I think that's when we'll start like seeing the room get down to the 2-man rotation we're used to. So
Yeah, no doubt about it. And like I said, CEH is just going to be used to continue to allow Jet to be healthy. But until that point, it's going to continue to be an issue. It is what it is. I would like it for not to be an issue, but it will be. So you just got to deal with that. So look, Kendall obviously talks about Justin Ross getting more snaps, and also Rashid Rice's snap share. Look, the reality of the situation is we talked about this before. The wide receivers are a little bit extra right now. This needs to be pared down. My ultimate takeaway from watching all of these plays, and there were some times in which the wide receivers were at fault. They just did not get open when they should have. Justin Watson is just too redundant with MVS at this current moment in time. You can't run both of those guys out there at the same time, really doing the same things, because especially a defense like the Jets that is just going to put the top on, that's a waste of 2 targets automatically because you haven't earned the right to get to those big plays. And I said this last night on our post game recap. It's just you can't run those guys down the field and expect them to get open because they're not going to allow them to get open. And ultimately, that wasn't the only problem with the game, but it is a problem. So, from you guys' perspective, this wide receiver rotation, who do you think should be the top 3 wide receivers ultimately when they have to have it? 11 personnel, obviously, Kelsey and one of the running backs is out there. Who do you feel like the 3 wide receivers that need to be taking the lion's share of the snaps here all right now?
I think it's
go ahead, DG.
MVS.
Yep.
Rashid.
Yep.
And Sky in the slot.
Same as me. DG think like me. I'll be cool with KT at times, but that's my 3 right there.
I'm good with KT being Gadget, McCole, Harmon type, that role or whatever. I think he can do that role very well. I think them trying to make, I don't know why they're trying to make Sky a boundary receiver. I'm not sure if he did that at Western Michigan, maybe and maybe at that level he's able to do that, but here it's not gonna work.
You gotta run a slant, bro. I don't remember last time I even seen this guy run a slant.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Every time I see him line up, he's lining up on the boundary, and I'm like, why are we? You're taking away from what he does best, which is
bro. Keep MVS and Rashid on the outside. Let Sky work the slot, bro. Please, it's not hard. Like those little hitch routes that Rashid drops, that's Sky's route. Let him run that. And those out and ups they run or speed outs, let Rashid do that. All the outside work, outside the numbers, that should be MVS and Rashid. And obviously, we know we want this receiver room to know every spot. And I respect the guys for wanting them to do that. Mm-hmm. But like the DMac said, once we get down to the nitty gritty and we know what guys are going to be in certain spots, they're comfortable with their rotation. I think that's the 3 that should be out there. And guys should be in positions to where they can succeed the most. I think we're in that experimental mode like we all been saying. So it's frustrating now that as Chiefs fans, we know this and we're going to complain about this for the next, 3 weeks. So we might as well just get used to it. But once we get to this bye, have a week off, we got Philly coming after that bye. That's a big game. They'll cut it down, and you'll see guys' snaps be determined for the rest of the season. So we just got to make it to that point. But for this week, I expect the guys to make some plays because this is a lackluster secondary we're going to see in Minnesota this week.
Yeah, and that's ultimately the good thing. There is a runway here leading up to the bye for this experimental stage to still continue. And them still put up points because these aren't really good defenses, to say the least. And that's okay. You're facing Broncos twice, who we know are just giving it up to everybody at this current moment in time. You're facing Minnesota, who doesn't have a semblance of a defense. The Chargers defense continues to get burned, and we saw Miami get exposed by Buffalo. So ultimately, this does have a chance. But look, when it looks nice, it looks very nice, and these pieces fall into place together. Here's a nice 12 personnel set. This is the touchdown, ultimately Noah Gray on the corner route. And you see when these guys are placed in the right positions, it works out well. You will see here, what's it called? Rashid Rice is going to run this little slant sit down over the middle. It's going to pull Sauce Gardner into him, and Gray's going to come out of that slot. Kelsey obviously going there, running that pivot route, pulling Whitehead down onto him, and eventually that allows Gray to get over the top. You allow these guys to use the attention of the defense against them. You know Kelsey's going to draw that attention. Rasheed Rice makes a few plays. MVS is taking the coverage away deep. That allows the third guy in the concept to be able to get open ultimately. And so that's what I want to see, especially as the field gets a little tighter. Use those bunch sets. Be creative. Try and create some conflict within the defense. Far too often it feels like you're just lining up in standard 3-by-1 things. And that's the thing about what I mentioned earlier. The creativity in the run game right now. The creativity in the run game right now feels a little bit more advanced than it does in the past game. And that is something that needs to change over the back half of the schedule. Because once that starts happening and the pass game gets that creativity injected back into it, then the defense is in conflict and you're going to create big plays again. So, that when it looks good, it looks really good. And that ultimately, this offense is led by Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and you expect them to get it together because they always do. But yeah, we obviously also talked about Isaiah Pacheco. Got to give him his own spotlight. A spectacular game from start to finish. Really, they established him early. They allowed him to get going. First two drives had a heck of a time. Made impact catches as well on some checkdowns. Was able to create a lot of yards after the catch as well, and after the contact from that aspect. Was able to get outside, run through tackles. Also ran up to the middle. Was able to get it done. And ultimately, when they needed him to, they went to him essentially to ice the game. And they just lined it up and said, "Hey, Pop, go ahead and get us this first down, and we'll get on out of here." As you'll see here, just a little bit jet motion. Pop goes through and runs through two guys just to get that first down. And that's a huge play to set up what ultimately was Mahomes' scramble to end out the game. And so that's what you want to see when this team needs to. And this is why I ultimately am not concerned about this team. When this team needs to, they do what they need to do. They run the ball in the ways they have to. They throw the ball in the concepts that they have to. But the fact that now they can get to those things in years past where we couldn't, and you have a good defense now, you can see how the pieces will be falling into place over the back half of the schedule. So from that standpoint, the last point that we had as far as the offense is concerned, right side of the offensive line. Obviously, Trey Smith gets called for a hold in this game. Jawan Taylor gets called for the face mask in this game that should not have been a safety, but was called as a safety. Do you guys feel any concern as far as either one of those guys are concerned, the right side of the offensive line in general? Going up against a good Jets defensive line, and that must be said, they were running a lot of stunts and twists as well. How do you guys feel about the right side of the offensive line? Any concerns as far as that's concerned? Go ahead, CJ.
Overall, not really, because like you said, in the run game, that was probably the most dominant run game we've had this season. So that was definitely the thing I wanted to see the most. When we get to our gap schemes and our man schemes, we run the ball and we're dominant. And I think, like I said before the season, since last year, we have the best guard-to-guard combo in the league. So Trey Smith, obviously, his strength of his game is run blocking. We saw him on his pancake when Pacheco scored his touchdown. And his weakness is sometimes going to get certain pass rushers. So obviously, everybody has their weak point in our offensive line, and Jawan Taylor obviously has the spotlight on him. So obviously that play, he had a good set, get off, just didn't place his hands in the proper place, and then obviously got called for the face mask, which I'm cool with the call. Just to D-Mac's point, I don't agree with the safety call as that went down. So overall, I think the O-line played well, gave Platt plenty of time to make plays. It's just now we just have to get back into that rhythm of, all right, getting the ball out quick. And it's funny when you mentioned pre-snap motion, D-Mac, that first drive of the game, we literally did that. We ran double set, and then Trav motioned down to a stack, and he ran a sail route, and then it was wide open. And when you have those motions, and it basically gives you the answers to a test, knowing if it's man or zone. The corner slightly shifted, and you knew what the answer in the coverage was. So once we do those things consistently, because like we're usually the kings of pre-snap motion, so we're not doing it that much now in our passing games. Like you said, maybe we're just saving it, and we don't want to give all of our good plays. So, but I think overall the O-line played well enough to make plays. We made it harder on ourselves turning the ball over. We don't have those two turnovers. We're not even having this conversation about why the game was so close. So the O-line, in my opinion, did their job. No, not a perfect game by any means, but I think they played well enough for us to game not to be that close. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it was their best game. After the game, I was a little bit upset about how some of the blitz pressure kind of got to us. But then again, I had to kind of go back and think that like we were facing Robert Saleh, who's definitely a hell of a defensive coordinator. Seeing, and obviously that scheme is going to lead to the Jets having a lot of success. So I just kind of chalked it up to that being what it was, just facing another coach that knows what he's doing on that side. It almost kind of feels like when when you're facing a guy like Mike Verbal or something like that, like you just know it's gonna be a street fight. It's gonna be an alley fight. He's gonna see every kind of blitz pressure he can think of. Every kind of twist or stunt that they can think of, and that some of those twists and stunts they kind of flew the Chiefs on. I seen Creed finally gave up the pressure for once. Kind of got beat on the inside, and then Trey Smith obviously I think tends to have a little bit of trouble with speed rushers kind of come into the inside, as we seen like Aiden Hutchinson when he switched over to him, or guys they just got a kind of a plethora of moves on those on those pass rushers or whatever. So I just think you ran into Robert Saleh and it is what it is. You kind of just chalk it up to that or whatever. But I'm not too concerned with their play. I think Jawan is obviously getting picked on, but I think that at the end of the day, I like how he's been responding to it, keeping it professional, saying he's got to get it fixed, and I think he will. So I'm not too concerned with how they play. Hopefully they can really clean it up this week, and I think they will against a more well, I'm trying to think of the words for less talented defense.
And you can tell that Jets team was like, that was kind of like their almost like back against the wall type game. You're on prime time. You've been talked bad all week. You had your own player, Joe Namath, tell the quarterback he doesn't want Zach Wilson starting. So I don't know what more of a disomen you need more than that. So the fan base is pissed off. They had a primetime game. Everybody's talking about us. Taylor Swift coming to the game to watch us, and everybody's telling you how you're trash and you have no chance of winning this game. The spread moved up and down. So they were pissed off. They were basically fighting for their, not like playoff lives, but to try to show some fight and show some heart. And they did that. So I expected them to play hard. And naturally, we got complacent when we got up. So not to say they're not a good football team. They have talent, but we made it easier on them than it should have been, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, ultimately, I think what you guys say as far as the right side of the offensive line is Trey Smith is occasionally going to get beat by some speed. Like, that's just going to happen.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is. You just got to accept that. But again, Jets defensive line is great. They have one of the best rotations in the league as far as edge rushers are concerned.
Who's 47 for them?
Huff, isn't it? If I remember.
Rolf, the other backer,
He was giving Jawan some fits out there.
He's one of the most underrated edge rushers because his speed around the edge is special. And then you saw when they had him loop inside. They got Trey a few times because he was just looping and being really agile. And that's a difficult thing for some of these guys to deal with. Trey Smith, or I should say, Jawan Taylor, adjusting, didn't get called for any illegal formations, trying to get off the ball within legal time to not get targeted.
One thing at a time.
One thing at a time. Struggle a little bit. And that's an adjustment period, like we talked about. He's with Andy Heck. He's a young tackle. It's going to continue to get better as we go throughout the season. He had to make this entire change to what his game was being allowed to be played at before he got to Kansas City. So now he's just got to adjust to that. It's going to be cool. Again, I feel good about this offensive line. Also, some of the games weren't passed off well. I think that's also something that, as we talk about with offensive lines, chemistry is paramount. That will come with time, is them being able to handle that as well. So I feel fine about what their offensive line was doing. It wasn't their best game, like you guys said. They did enough to end up winning. And CJ, to your point, this is a Jets team that was desperate, that was talked bad about the entire week. The quarterback was told that you need to get out of the town. The coach was told that you need to be on the hot seat for allowing the quarterback to stay. They came out. They could have easily rolled over after 17-0, but instead they showed all types of fight. You got to give them credit for that. But ultimately, a good team, even on the road, hostile environment after giving up a lead, can still rip the hearts out of another team because they're better than them and they can execute just one or two more plays than they need to just to get the job done. And that's exactly what the Chiefs were able to do ultimately to get out of Jersey with a win. That being wrapped up, I think we can move on a little bit here. Look ahead to Minnesota. Obviously, Minnesota Vikings, a team that has been scuffling coming into the week. Kirk Cousins leading the charge. Obviously, we know he's making an astronomical amount of money, as Kirk Cousins always does. Their tackle situation is a little bit in flux. Offensive line is struggling, certainly to say the least, at this current moment in time. But still, a team with a lot of talent as far as weapons are concerned. We know about Justin Jefferson, one of, if not the best wide receivers in the game. T.J. Hawkinson, a very good tight end. Rookie Jordan Addison took him in the first round. KJ Osborne, things of that nature as well. Coming off a win in Carolina, a little bit of a slop fest. Obviously, Kirk Cousins throwing that pick six, and their defense is obviously a question mark as well. So it'll be interesting to see exactly as we move forward and what exactly this is. I think that this is a game in which this offense should be able to take advantage of that defense to say at least should be putting up 28 plus points fairly easily, in my opinion. Brian Flores can throw some stuff at you, but it isn't something to which they haven't seen before, anything they can't handle. It may be a slight bit of issue early on, and then as you get into your rhythm, you should have no issues as you move through it. Defensively, test with the weapons. Still, you should be able to have a good day up front as far as the trenches are concerned, and hopefully force Cousins into some mistakes. How do you guys feel specifically about going to Minnesota here for a rematch of Super Bowl IV?
Super Bowl IV is crazy. I think this is our first time going to their new stadium since they built it, correct?
Yes, I believe it is.
So, yeah, they're brand new stadium indoors. So, like DMac said, they got a lot of weapons. JJ is arguably the best in the league right now, so we're definitely going to have our hands full. I expect to see a lot of Trent and Snead probably following him a lot during the day. Their O-line has struggled a lot, giving up pressure, especially up the middle. They have two decent tackles. I know Darius Hall's been in and out the lineup this year, one of their young tackles that they drafted a year ago. So I think up front, we should have a good day from guys like Mike Dana. Chris Jones should definitely get home and set up some tackles and set up some sacks for guys like Felix and guys like George Karlaftis coming out the edge. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to get home, and I'm definitely interested whenever we start talking about our gambling segment. A Chiefs anytime defensive touchdown is definitely on the board this week. Seeing the Panthers get a pick six, that's DG. Put that on the ticket. That's definitely on the board this week for sure. And we have to keep our trend going. We've had a turnover in every game, so I definitely want to keep that trend going and definitely keep it going for our offense. Because anytime we get the ball back to 15, we know what he does with it. So it's going to be a tough week. Obviously, you definitely don't want to underestimate Kirk Cousins because he's going to throw the ball 40, 45 times just because their defense, like DMac said, can't really get a lot of stops right now. They don't really have that much talent on the back end. So it should be a day where our offense can go out there and control the clock and move the ball efficiently. But we're going to have our hands full defensively for sure.
Yeah, facing one of the best receivers in the league. Well, to me, and the best receiver in the league. Then obviously, yeah, Hawkinson is definitely going to be a tough matchup.
Hey man, put Cook on Hawkinson, please.
So I think to CJ's point, like you said, the defensive line is definitely going to have a good game. They're going to have to, really take advantage of a bad offensive line, really get to Kirk Cousins and try to make him make some mistakes. And then then on the offensive side of the ball, I would just like to see those roles being established and us knowing like whose role is what or whatever. I think if they can get to that, then you'll see, that offensive explosion that we all kind of been waiting for to see. And I think this is kind of the same spot they were kind of in last year when they went to San Francisco. They were trying to kind of figure some things out, and then everything kind of seemed to kind of click in that game for them. So hopefully this is that turnaround. This is one of those games that just don't go play with your food. Just go out there, execute. I think if you can get up early on especially on this team, especially with that bad offensive line, you kind of pin your ears back and get to Kirk Cousins and force them into some turnovers and into some bad stuff. So I think we can go up there and really get a win if we do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, ultimately, you want to see this offense kind of get off to a fast start, maybe quiet some things down after an uneven performance against the Jets. Like I said, this is a defense you should be able to take advantage of. They're going to be aggressive, trying to dictate things as well. So maybe you could find some big plays. That would certainly be nice to see, kind of thrown back in as far as this defense or this offense is concerned. Not a lot of big explosive yet to start the season. So you want to see that kind of come back as far as that's concerned as well. So it'll be interesting to see that matchup ultimately. I do have one thing. So CJ, obviously you mentioned a little bit of betting segment. Anything you guys like as far as a play as we head to Minnesota, try to win some people some money?
But the two plays I like the most, definitely, and I'll dig in some more later on in the week, but I like definitely George Karlaftis anytime sack for sure. I feel like Chris is going to set the pocket and kind of force Kirk Cousins to flush outside and definitely set it up for George. As even though he should have had 2 sacks on Sunday versus the Jets, but he kind of slipped off on a couple of them. So I expect him to finish this week. And I definitely love the play for
He's not as athletic as Zach.
Exactly, absolutely. And like we know Kirk Cousins is known for throwing the ball a lot. Like I expect him to get at least 35 to 40 attempts minimum for me. So anytime interception for Kirk Cousins is definitely in play this week. Being the fact that our DBs have definitely got their hands on a lot of balls this season so far. We've been in position a lot. We should have more interception than we should have right now, but I definitely think we're going to have our opportunities to get our hands on an interception this week. Those are probably like my top 3 looks.
I think the play that I would like early on would be the over on Travis's yards.
Yeah.
I think this is probably a game where it's kind of a bounce back game for him. I think he up there in New Jersey, he kind of got put in the jail cell a little bit, and they just weren't gonna let him, dictate the game or anything like that. I'm not sure if Minnesota has the same personnel at the linebacker position. I think is Eric Kendricks still there?
No, he's actually in LA now.
Okay.
In LA.
Okay. I'm not. So that leads me to I'm not really sure who's.
They still got Harrison Smith over there, some older guys that have been
right
for a while. So.
Yeah.
Actually, they do. Ivan Pace Jr. who's I should say a undrafted guy. Ivan Pace Jr. been playing pretty well for them at linebacker position. I will certainly give him credit for that. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see certainly as far as that matchup is concerned. So yeah, we will get here. Moving on as far as our weekly power ranking segment. Week 4 certainly brought up some shakeups. This was our week 4 power rankings there: Niners, Dolphins, Eagles, Chiefs, Bills, Browns, Ravens, Cowboys, Colts, and Texans in the gold star spot as well. So a few of those teams lost, and so we're going to have a little bit of a shakeup here. Number 1 spot, Niners took care of business. I assume we all can agree they're going to stay right there. Any disagreements as far as that's concerned?
None whatsoever. They're the most complete team in the league. Right?
Playing good ball.
And CMC is MVP.
Yeah, McCaffrey been going crazy. Man,
7 weeks. So interesting. Second and third teams. Eagles win, blow out the Patriots. Bills, who we had at our 5 spot, able to blow out, Dolphins at what we thought was going to be a really good game. Kind of a good game to start, but ended up switching up a little bit as we went through. Thoughts on the Bills, Eagles, and Chiefs? Who do you think should take over that 2nd spot, 3rd spot, and 4th spot as the Dolphins fall out of that top 2?
I like the Bills. I think even though I know they're kind of rivals or whatever, I think so ever since that Jets game, they've kind of shown that they've been able to turn it around. And then to have Miami come in and especially off of 70 points performance and just basically shut them down and not allow Tyreek and their weapons to do anything for real. That proved a lot to me that they probably deserve to be in that 2nd slot.
No, yeah, I'll probably have to agree. I like Philly, and now they're undefeated, so I'm going to give them their credit for that. But Buffalo, to go in there, I expected them – I picked them to win that game, but I definitely didn't think they were going to win by 20. So for them to go in there and keep Jalen Waddle –
or put up 48.
That's what I'm saying. They put up almost 50. So, and I know Diggs had his normal day where he got a lot of targets and he got in the end zone 3 times. But I think the most impressive thing the Bills did to me, and I think we've all been saying this around the league, they actually ran the ball when they needed to. And they didn't try to force things down the field with their passing game. So they were calm. They definitely didn't try to force anything. Josh wasn't turning into Joshy like he usually does. So, and those are usually the games where he definitely does it. So he didn't really turn the ball over in his normal fashion. So to go out there and be calm and run the football, establish your dominance, and then hold the 2 fastest guys in football, and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill to essentially, I don't think Jalen Waddle even had 60. And
I forgot he was playing.
Yeah, like neither guy really had over 60 yards. So that combination, and to DG's point, they've been scoring on everyone this season. So, and they did this when Trey White missed half the games. He left the game with a torn Achilles. So that was sad to see from his standpoint. No Von Miller, no Trey White, no Jordan Poyer as well, who was inactive for that game. To go out there and hold that offense to that many points and to dominate on the other side of the ball, that was very, very impressive. So I'll definitely give the Bills the number 2 spot.
Yeah, I got to say, absolutely impressive performance by them. Like you said, without those 3 key contributors, they'll be seeing if Vaughn can come off the IR here soon. Obviously, Trey White is going to be lost to the season for them. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they continue to evolve. But got to give them credit. Josh Allen in that offensive scheme have evolved into running the ball more consistently, not necessarily relying on him playing hero ball too often. And that's making for a very lethal offense up there in Buffalo, to say the least. So yeah, Eagles versus us. Who do you guys feel? And we can include the Ravens as well, who had a very good game against the Browns, missing their starting quarterback. How do you guys feel about that next trio as far as 3, 4, 5, and really 6, because the Cowboys are also in that mix? Who do you think can take over some of those spots?
I want to be biased and give it to us because I think we played some good. We haven't played our best ball, but I'm gonna be non-biased here. I'm gonna give it to the Eagles. They're undefeated. They've handled their business. They play good ball. Even they played ugly games like we played ugly. They found a way to win all their games. So I'm gonna give them the nod just because they're undefeated. But I'm gonna give the Eagles at 3.
Yeah, I like the Eagles too. I think, man, when they've got a mindset to just run the damn ball and just pound it down people. So I think that last game for them going against the Commanders, just division game. Opponent kind of knows you. You play them twice a year. Just tough. One of those tough, gritty. Had to fight it out kind of game. So and they pulled it out. Championship teams find ways to win ugly games. And I think they're one of those championship teams. I really think they're a contender. I think they're for real.
Facts.
And that defensive line is really good too.
Jalen Carter, defensive rookie of the year. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, man. That kid's a monster.
He's a dog.
Yes, he is. So next up, 5 and 6, Cowboys, Ravens. Cowboys obviously able to get the job done. Yeah, not too much of an issue with taking care of this week's game as well. Ravens did go on the road, able to take care of the Browns with DTR starting. It's a few interceptions to say the least, a few mistakes from him, looking like a rookie quarterback out there. Well, a 5th-round rookie quarterback. Some of the first-round rookie quarterbacks been looking pretty good, actually. But yeah, so you guys' thoughts, Ravens versus Cowboys. Any particular leaning there as far as those two teams are concerned? Who do you think should be the number 5 team in our rankings? Cowboys have been coming off the Patriots blowout.
This could go either way, honestly. And I wouldn't be upset either way how y'all call it. But I think if I had to, it's like splitting hairs, I would probably tell I'll probably give it to Baltimore to go in there. Obviously, we know how many injuries they've had. They lost a lot of guys. Like Linderbaum's been in and out the lineup. Ronnie Stanley. Their safety Harrison's not been there. Obviously, Odell didn't play. Rashard Bateman didn't play. And they did play a rookie quarterback, so I'm not trying to be too biased about what they did. But that defense in Cleveland has been a top 5 unit this year. They play some really good ball. Myles Garrett has been playing like a DPOY. And they have, in my opinion, the best trio of corners in the NFL. And to go into Cleveland and put up 28 points from Lamar standpoint, I think he threw 2 touchdowns and rushed for 2. So to go in there and have a dominant performance on offense with losing a lot of guys and not having that camaraderie that they want, because they're still learning a new offense with like marketing and obviously having the new guys and new faces in there. And they've had so many injuries over the years. This is just kind of like what the Ravens do. And Lamar just finds a way to win games. So even when guys aren't in the building. So I'm going to give Lamar his credit. I'm going to put the Ravens at 5.
Yeah, I like the Ravens as well too. Lamar to me seems a little bit more comfortable this year. I maybe, and that's maybe because they're giving him maybe a little bit more freedom with switching with offense coordinators or some nature of that sense. But I think the Ravens proves that they should be at the 5 spot. Cowboys to me, I felt like got the benefit of playing a very bad Patriots team, and that offense stinks. Like they have no weapons whatsoever. They can't stretch the field. Mac Jones is completely unathletic.
That guy stinks.
Yeah, he sucks. Man. No disrespect to the Cowboys nation or whatever. Like I understand you can only play who's in front of you, but just I think sometimes you do get the benefits of playing a bad opponent, and they just made a bad team look bad. So I like what the Ravens were able to do to go on the road in a tough environment, division opponent, and beat a division opponent was, to me, deserves 5 spots. So.
And Matt Judon left that game early. Christian Gonzalez left that game early. So the 2 best defensive players aren't on the field. Like it's not really hard for you to move the ball. So
they have no weapon. They can't do anything. Like they can't stretch. If it's not like a 5-yard in or a hitch.
I really don't remember them having an explosive play like in the last 2 weeks. Just been
they're slow. It's just that offense is putrid. I'm sorry.
Sorry for the Mac Jones supporters.
Yeah, look, it's ugly there in Patriots land. Mac Jones had a few decisions there where he was across the field and threw the ball across to the other side just for no reason and just putting the ball in harm's way. Looked like he was just glitching
He
out
tried to
there.
do a check down and like just flipped it out of his hand.
Yeah,
It was
it was
so bad. I'm like, bro, he's scared, dog.
it was ugly to watch out there, and obviously he got benched there for Bailey Zappi. I mean, and doesn't look good right now for that Patriots offense. And obviously, Judon going to be out for at least 2 months. They said. We'll see what the news is on Gonzalez. He's looking for a second opinion here, so not great up there. And the Cowboys certainly took advantage as well. Dropped the Dolphins down to 7. Obviously, we're 2 last week. Get blown out by the Bills. Still a good team. Still an explosive offense. Got to on the road up there in Buffalo. End up losing a blowout game there. Not going to drop them too far, but we'll leave them right there. So now we have a 2-3-1 teams left before we get to our gold star of the week. Both NFC teams, both teams you expect to, well, you'll say one should be competing for the division, one for the wild card. Lions and Seahawks. Well, actually, we have 3 NFC teams. So we're going to have to leave one of these 3 teams out. Lions, Seahawks, Buccaneers. We're going to leave one of these teams out of the top 10. Which 2 do you guys feel should be put into those 8 and 9 spots, in your opinion?
I think the
I mean,
Seahawks.
out of those 3
Sure.
teams, that's tough. I mean, the best team, in my opinion, is Detroit, but Seattle beat them. So we can't put them over Seattle because they're head-to-head, and they went into Detroit and beat them. So, but then the Bucs are 3-1 right now, and I didn't think Baker Mayfield would be playing this good of football at this point. So I guess I would say Seattle, Detroit, Tampa in that order. So I guess Tampa will be out for me. I would probably go Seattle and Detroit for the last 2.
Yeah, I think Tampa's out. I think they're frauds. I'm sorry.
And they're 3-1, which is crazy.
Yeah, I think they're fraud. I don't really think they're a good team as their record shows. I think Seattle is definitely a lot better team, a lot better defense. I mean, they obviously lead the
That boy
league in
Witherspoon
sacks.
is nice.
Yeah, and those 2 corners, man. Woolen almost had a pick last night. And
Man, he did.
Pick 6 too. So I think
Shout out to Daniel Jones.
shout out to Pete Carroll for getting another quarterback tandem that's probably gonna
Snyder and Pete Carroll
torch this league for the far future or whatever.
Doing their thing, man.
And then we had Seahawks, Lions as well too. I think that overall, I kind of think the Lions are a sneaky contender. Like if things kind of go right for them.
I mean, hell, we were saying they're gonna win the division all offseason.
Yeah.
I don't know what's sneakier more than that. We've been giving them their praise all offseason.
It's just kind of one of those things. I kind of feel like things for them have to go really right in the playoffs for them to get there. But it wouldn't surprise me if they
it's still the Lions. We still think they're gonna do something wrong. Like, oh, it sounds good now, and then all of a sudden,
right? Yeah. I was like, are they a contender?
It's the Lions. Can we really say that? It's like that stigma, though. No,
I definitely the Bucs are frauds. Like,
I hope they play together in the playoffs because every time they play, it's always a high scoring game. So I hope they match. If like division and wild card, I hope that'll be dope.
Yeah, I think the Bucs are in a couple weeks here are going to show why they're not a very good team. So.
Yeah, look, the ultimate thing is this. I got to also give credit for the Buccaneers and their offensive game plan right now around making sure that Baker is comfortable throwing outside the numbers in the ways that he really likes to do that. They're trying to get to some more play action as well, and that's helping him out. And that defense is playing well. They whooped up on the Saints, man. The Saints offense right now is future. It's tough to watch. Derek Carr, obviously he has had the shoulder issue. It looked like he had no interest in throwing the ball beyond 5 yards, and that's no way to run an offense, to say the least. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see because look, that NFC South is. I mean, we think the Bucs don't look that great, but they still are 3-1 at the top, and we know the Saints don't look that good because they don't have offensive line and the quarterback's hurt, and the Falcons are 2-2 after they lost to the Jaguars, and it's the Falcons. They don't want to throw the ball anyway, and so it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening in the NFC South, to say the least.
Like the Bucs are going to end up winning this division, and we're all going to have to eat crow talking bad about Baker. And I'm like, I thought he was going to be bad this year. I'm not going to lie, but
hey man,
he may end up doing it by default.
Hold on, they did that. They won that division with Brady, and they were still a bad team. Like
they were under 500 too.
Bro, I thought they were going to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. I thought they were going to be bad this year. I was like, they're not going to win. It's a good roster, but I didn't trust Baker, bro, at all.
Maybe it just says that division is just that terrible.
I mean, that is true. The division is very mid. That absolutely. I thought New Orleans and Atlanta would be battling it out, but to DMac's point, Desmond Ritter's played awful. Derek Carr's hurt, which is the exact same situation they were in last year when their quarterback got hurt. So they really can't catch a break with whoever is under center for them. So the Bucs may end up winning it by default because they have the healthiest quarterback and they have the best set of receivers in the division. So
yeah, you're not lying one bit. So gold star of the week here. I think we have a few candidates. Texans, who won it last week, obviously went in at home, just kicked the teeth into Pittsburgh, just up and down the field. CJ Stroud continuing his excellent play behind a makeshift offensive line with a whole bunch of backup. CJ was throwing darts, anticipation throws all over the place with great accuracy. Got to give him credit for that. Another AFC South team with a very impressive performance. Tennessee Titans winning by 24 points at home versus Cincinnati, who's reeling at this current moment in time. Burrow's just a statue back there, and that defensive line led by Jeffrey Simmons, who is just an absolute monster in the interior, had a heck of a day coming after him. Got to give the Tennessee Titans credit for getting that job done. Had a Derrick Henry touchdown pass in that game there, a little bit of special for him as well. Should mention also, I think the Rams, Colts and no walkovers. We've seen them play some very good games this year, and played another good one versus the Rams. Rams on the road, Indianapolis, still able to get the job done. Got to give Matthew Stafford a lot of credit there. He was throwing some junk out there, but he was also throwing some fireballs and getting the ball done. So your thoughts, Rams, Texans, Titans, who do you think deserves to be highlighted here with that gold star performance?
I got to keep the Texans there, man. I thought this would have been a week they could probably have a letdown. They've been playing really well, and maybe they kind of start feeling themselves. But to go into a game with arguably the best pass rusher in the game in TJ Watt, and I don't think he finished with a sack at all, and their starting right tackle, Titus Howard, is still hurt. Laramie Tunsil is still out. Jalen Petrie didn't play. I know for a fact Stingley didn't play. Like, they're losing starters, and they went there and, like, to D-Mac's point, they dominated the Steelers. Like, it wasn't close. And they obviously, like, left the game with Kenny Pickett getting hurt, and I hope he gets well and gets healthy. But the Texans dominated that game from beginning to finish. I watched it today on the All-22, and they're getting Damian Pierce involved in the game, and C.J. Stroud looks very calm. They're getting Nico Collins targets. Tank Dell's getting involved. Dalton Schultz finally had a breakout game for them. But for DeMeco Ryans to do this job without two of his main players on defense, and I'm not saying the Steelers' offense is world beater, but to make them look almost inept, and it's exactly people don't like Matt Canada's play calling, they went there and dominated that game on both sides of the ball. So for DeMeco Ryans, a rookie head coach with a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud, they win that home game. And obviously they had a whole lot of juice because they had J.J. Watt back in the building, and he had a lot of ceremony before the game. So they had a lot of energy, a lot of juice, and they dominated from beginning to finish. So I got to keep the Houston Texans at number 10, man. They've earned it for sure.
Yeah, no disrespect to those other teams, but I got to give it to the Texans as well, too. C.J. Stroud is showing that he's the real deal. And I thought this for him would kind of be the week where he kind of comes back down to earth, because just going up against a coach like Mike Tomlin, who always seems to kind of have his team ready and kind of comes up with some schemes. I feel like that really trick a rookie quarterback, into doing some stuff that he might not be, able to do. But yeah, I gotta go with the Texans, man. They absolutely kicked Pittsburgh's teeth in, and and came out with a huge victory. I think C.J. Stroud's got a really bright future in this league, and it's definitely proven that he's the real deal. I like the Texans a lot. Shout out to DeMeco for week 2, another week.
Another week, baby.
Yeah, I want to try and rotate teams in and out of that spot, but my God, I mean, back-to-back weeks, the Texans just absolutely have a spectacular game. You got to give them credit for that. Can't take it away from them. So, I mean, it's hard not to
playing like this. They may be in the top 9.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they are certainly working their way up to it, to say the least. So, yeah, shout out to DeMeco. And this really just speaks to how important it is to set a culture within a building. And you can see DeMeco's done that, and the ways in which he's brought guys into the fold. I mean, it's been very, very impressive, to say the least, to see how that offense has also been operating pretty well. I mean, people were like, oh, there's not a lot of weapons in Houston. Davis Mills doesn't have a lot of help. That's the reason why. No, you're showing that when you put a real quarterback in there, like C.J. Stroud, the guy that throws with anticipation and throws with accuracy, guys like Nico Collins who are pretty athletic, guys like Tank Dell that can get out of in and out of cuts very quickly and still make things happen after the catch look really well. A veteran like Robert Woods who knows how to do the dirty work within an offense and will still catch the ball on a consistent basis when you put him in possessions too, then get the job done. And that you once again got to give those guys credit when they get the job done. As far as that's concerned, I think the Texans have certainly earned our respect in getting back-to-back weeks within that gold star. So yeah, shout out to the Houston Texans coming in at number 10 in the power rankings for this week. We'll go ahead and get that out to you guys as well after the show is over with. But yeah, as we wrap up, looking ahead to week 5, just we'll see what exactly is on the docket here. Any specific games really stand out to you guys? We have our first rounds of buys as well. We have some interesting matchups. I think we're going to get Jaguars and Bills early slot, obviously in London. Commanders Bears on Thursday Night Football. Yeah. So we got some interesting ones. Titans Colts as well, divisional matchup. Obviously, Chiefs will be going to Minnesota. And I think the Sunday Night Football game is probably going to be highlighted by everybody. Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers, going to be a barn burner. Anything that stands out for you guys as far as the slate is concerned going into week 5?
Can we skip over Thursday night?
Yeah, Thursday can get cut. You can cut that off the list. Ain't nobody trying to watch that. How about to throw
a god awful game. I would say at least the NFL is making up for it with giving us Cowboys and Niners. I'm very intrigued.
That's gonna be the game of the week for sure.
I can't wait to sit back on Sunday night and really watch that. That's gonna be a treat.
Bro, the Dolphins about to put up 100 points on the Giants. Jesus Christ,
that
and they're coming off a loss and they're at home. Oh, they better be nice and pissed off.
That offensive line is terrible. Saints and Patriots is
that's gonna be a boring game. Jesus Christ.
Oh man, that's gonna be a rock fight, and just you're gonna look up. It's gonna be 9-6 in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes.
Definitely take the under.
Yeah, take the under, bro. That's a classic under.
They're gonna set the line at 13, yo. That's gonna be crazy.
And it still may not hit.
Yeah. Jets definitely to me bounce back against the Broncos. I think
the Jaguars Bills game probably arguably the second most important game of the day. Except it's got to be in the morning. Is it on ESPN Plus again? I didn't like that thing. I mean, I have ESPN Plus, but a lot of people kept complaining because they didn't have the link to watch the game. But that's outside of the Niners Cowboys. That's the best matchup of the day for me.
That one will be on NFL Network, so everybody will be able to.
Thank you NFL for doing that. Because
I will say though, I very much enjoyed the Toy Story podcast.
I enjoyed it too. I love the Toy Story podcast.
Yeah, I had it on the split screen. I had it on the split screen with the regular broadcast. I was having a great time just watching it back and forth because it was funny. It was hilarious.
I still say getting juked in animation is crazy.
Bro, watching your son clown you. Dab, you got juked on Toy Story, you going to get clowned forever, dog. That's crazy.
Oh, man. Bijan took that man's soul. It was cravy. But yeah, you guys highlighted the
big heads, bro. That was so funny.
Jaguars Bills going to be very interesting. Ravens Steelers divisional matchup. Are the Steelers going to show any fight here? Ravens obviously rolling a little bit. We'll see what exactly and get the job done. And yeah, we might look up and the Dolphins have 70 points.
Hey, again. We're going to get a very petty moment. Sean Payton versus Robert Saleh. I know Aaron Rodgers isn't playing, so it's not going to have as much juice. But
that's why I said
obviously everybody.
I think the Jets take it to them.
in Denver, I expect Saleh to come out very, very motivated. The way that those boys were talking in the preseason, and obviously Aaron Rodgers won't be on the field. He had to quote, "Keep my coach's name out of your mouth." So it's going to be a very interesting game. And the Jets coming off a loss, and the Broncos are obviously feeling themselves coming off a dramatic win in Chicago. Even though you can't brag about beating the Chicago Bears right now. But I think that'll be a very interesting game in the 3:00 slate. Yeah, that'll be a interesting game to watch. I'm going to have that one on the split screen for sure. I'm gonna keep.
I didn't think it could get any worse for the Bears, and it did.
The last week though, we had that Bears versus Broncos. We're like, are the Bears going to continue to be bad on offense, or is the Broncos going to figure it out on defense? And we got that answer pretty quickly when Justin Fields threw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. So yeah, Zach Wilson, after showing some very good signs of life versus us. Woo-wee, that boy, Nate Hackett might be ready to unleash something on Denver, man.
Hackett in that bag. He about to call everything. It's like trick plays, reverses. They going for it every fourth down. They're going to do everything in their power to win this
game. Garrett Wilson, anytime touchdown.
Yeah, it might be a special performance from Nate Hackett in game plan.
I'm taking the Jets over on points, bro. Whatever it is, take the team total over. They gonna score everything this week, bro. They about to throw the kitchen sink at the Broncos.
That Denver Broncos defense is very, very, very poor at this current moment in time. It is ugly, and I'm glad that they did say that because look, last week we had a little bit of a get it done or get out of town game. In my personal opinion, as far as the Jaguars are concerned, you go into London, you had to get it done versus the Falcons. Bengals, you're 1-3. This is a get it done or get out of town type of game.
And
you cannot
listen,
go 1-4 and lose to the Cardinals, man.
It's on the road too. Hey, take the Cardinals to cover the first quarter and the first half, guys. I think they cover that spread, whatever it is. It's probably like what 3.5, maybe 4.5.
The Cardinals are going to give them hell because they're playing as hard as any team in the National Football League right now. And Josh Dobbs is not like he's not going out there like somebody
not a bum. He's really not.
He's not. He's been playing extremely well. So look, it's going to be very difficult. The line right now is Cincinnati -3 on the road. They got to win.
Arizona to cover that, bro. They may end up winning the game.
they got to find a way to win against Arizona, to say the least, or things are going to take an even more drastic downturn as far as Cincinnati is concerned. But yeah, interesting slate to say the least. Like I said, first round of buys. We'll end up. I think I might have. Did I?
Yeah, you a little front.
Come back.
Come
back.
back.
He'll be back. All right. So until DMac gets back, guys, this is what we're gonna talk about.
Bro, they start 1-4.
No, fact. They start 1-4. It's gonna be bad, bro. This is a must-win game for them. That Jacksonville Buffalo game is obviously interesting because the Jags was over there this past week, so they stayed over there. Obviously, Buffalo Bills coming off a big win, so that could be like a. I don't know if it's like a. Do you think that's like a game we think that should go over, but may go under, just because two high-powered offenses? Obviously, we think it's going to be a lot of scoring, but it may end up not being a lot of scoring just because I think the Bills may show some pride this week. But that Tre'Davious White injury sucks, bro. Yeah. That really does. And now you got to play Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. Like
those London games are always weird too.
They are, bro. And Jackson, that's like your second home, bro. Like I want the Bills should win the game, but I feel like maybe like this is like the Josh turns into Joshy and he turns the ball over for no apparent reason. So. This could be a game when that happens as well.
You could think it's going to be high scoring, and it could end up being 17-10.
Because both quarterbacks just like – because Trevor Lawrence hasn't been the best this year. He's been kind of up and down, and Josh Allen's had some good games and some bad games. And, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I think that's probably my second favorite game behind that. Who do you think wins the Niners-Cowboys game, bearing everything we've seen so far?
I'm gonna go to Niners. I'm
gonna go Niners too. Yeah,
they just right now to me they're the most complete team.
I'm sorry, Ashley. Like, you don't hate it.
Yes, yeah. They
both Ashleys. I'm sorry.
Right. But yeah, man, what they're doing with CMC and just that defense, like, I don't know, man. It's too much. I think for the Cowboys. And
I would have picked the Cowboys to maybe pull off the upset if Trayvon Diggs was playing, but
they just seem like they kind of just seem like they lost some juice with.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the best corners in the league. He can shut a lot of guys down. He's a very good cover corner. Can do a lot of different things. And Cowboys defense is still very, very good. But when you're going up against arguably the best offense in the league, and the Niners who have weapons everywhere, Brandon Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, obviously CMC and Elijah Mitchell, and Purdy's operating at a high level right now. And like him and Kyle Shanahan are in sync, and they're getting everything done that they need. So they're running the ball at a high level. Play action game is crazy. They're just executing well when they get into the green zone and the red zone as well. So it'll be they'll have their hands full in Dallas. I think they'll keep the game close. Whatever the spread is, I'll probably take it. I think Cowboys can probably cover. Will they win the game? I don't think so. Like this is a game maybe in the playoffs, maybe they could pull off if they're fully healthy, but they're just losing guys, and their offense has been very, how should I say this, underwhelming at times. Hasn't been the offense that we're used to for the Cowboys. They're more of a defensively led football team, as they should be. You got Micah Parsons, one of the best pass rushers in the league. So it'll be very interesting to say the least. I don't think DMac will be joining us for the closing of the show, DG. So it may have to be me and you, buddy.
Right.
We apologize, Chief Kingdom, for our technical difficulties. We will be better. We promise.
Right.
Scout's honor.
You know, but we promise to always tell the truth. Oh, there he is.
He's back.
Picked an unfortunate time for things to go out there, but I made it back just in time.
Hey, we're still
Here's what it is. Man, what did Mo have to say? Do you see Colorado's were trash in the freshman year? Hey, look, I keep telling y'all, Ross will find a way to get into the game, but
Gonna
it's
be a
not
while,
what
though.
you want it to be. I promise you that. It is
They're
what
gonna
it
make
is.
them wait.
That would be my message to Chiefs Kingdom: patience.
You know,
Yes.
we know how this goes. Why does everybody act like we know the answers to the test?
I know it sucks. Just patience.
Patience, absolutely. Look, I like I said, I rewatched the entirety of the passing. I watched the entire game, but specifically keyed in on what the passing issues were. It made me feel better having gone back and charted it, and I'll get into that and stay scheming. But ultimately, what DG said, patience. Is it the runway? Bad defense is coming up. This offense will get its rhythm. It'll keep it going, and at a
It's a
bye,
marathon.
they'll just slow it down
not a
into what it
sprint.
needs.
The long
Absolutely.
game.
Marathon, not a sprint. Anything else, CJ, as we wrap up, man? We're going to get on out of here.
Nope. Super excited for this week. Make sure you guys tune in to the aftermath. We posted a new episode. Definitely appreciate y'all tuning in to tell the truth for me, DG, and DMac. We will be having a betting segment posted very soon. That's in the works. So for anybody, and I'll begin some text for people who like having questions about like parlays and stuff. We will be creating a segment, and I promise you, it'll probably be a space, maybe not like necessarily a podcast, but we'll definitely have a space where you guys can come in and ask questions, and anybody want to make some money. Me and DG are degenerates. I know DMac's probably the noble one, probably not being a bad habit like we are. But if anybody's interested in making some money, definitely hit our DMs. My Twitter is at CGG81. Sorry, I didn't type it today. At CJEEZY81. My DMs are open if you guys want to talk about schemes, football, gambling, props, fantasy, anything. I'm down to talk always.
Yeah, man. You can find me, keep it prolific, Sports After Dark. Also in Chief Spaces. I'm always around. DMs are always open. So, just hit me. You want any advice on betting, gambling, or life in general, man. You need somebody to talk to, man. I'm your guy.
Always open.
Absolutely. Look, Mo, next season. Just next season.
Yeah.
Yes. DMac Wake 316. Find me on Twitter. Red Friday Spaces will be back this week. You know what we always do every single week as well. We'll see. I might be on Thursday's edition, obviously Kingdom Cast. Always make sure you tune in at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Make sure you guys tune in Thursday nights as well. I'll have my Stay Scheming episode coming out soon enough. And yeah, for another episode of Tell the Truth, appreciate everybody for coming by, asking questions, or just listening themselves. For CJ, for DG, I'm DMac. Appreciate y'all. Peace.